Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Now, I know that it can be really hard to find an ERISA disability attorney because there's not a lot of us in the United States who specialize in this area. But there are many more lawyers who do estate planning and wills. How does a person find the right estate planning and wills attorney for them?
My advice is always to think about this kind of situation on a trust continuum. So if you are going to hire someone to mow your lawn, you probably could get someone off the internet that you Google, right? Because if they mess it up, it's going to grow back. But if you're going to hire a brain surgeon, you're probably not going to go and Google who's the brain surgeon because you want someone that you can trust. So I think of, on a continuum, all the services that we need in life. How much do we have to really trust that person? And if it's someone up here on this side of the continuum, like a brain surgeon, I would say someone that's going to take control of all your assets for you and your heirs might be on that end of the spectrum. So you want to ask other people that you trust, who they've worked with that they trust. So ask your accountant, ask your financial advisor, ask your other attorneys that you work with. But then once you're there and you interview the person, you're talking to them, recognize that aside from, the fancy office and how, the cookies they have in the lobby, this is going to be an ongoing relationship they're building. So you're looking for someone that you're comfortable with, because estate planning documents usually don't just get made and then sit there for 50 years and never talk to the person again. So this is going to be a relationship. So you want someone that you can tell all your stuff to. As an example, I have a family that came to my office recently where they had their estate plan done, or one of the women in the family had her estate plan done by a lawyer who her niece worked for. So because of that, when she went to get her estate plan, she had two daughters. She appointed one of them as her personal representative, but she didn't want to tell the lawyer that her daughter was a convicted felon because she was embarrassed, because her niece worked for him, or somebody worked for him in the family. So she didn't tell him, but that disqualifies her from being a personal representative in Florida. And the other daughter was like someone they didn't trust. They don't want her to manage everything. So in turn, she passed away. The will said that the personal representative was a person who can't be the personal representative, and the only other person left is the daughter that she didn't want to do it. But there's nothing in writing that says she can't do it. So now that daughter is the personal representative, and there's all kinds of litigation going on with her trying to sell assets out from under the rest of the heirs and things like that, which is why she wasn't appointed in the first place. So that's an example, just like, a worst case scenario, but you want to make sure that you have an attorney that you're super comfortable telling all the messy details of your family to, so that you don't leave something out like that could long-term impact what happens. Like this house might end up being sold and not be owned by who you want it to be owned by now because of it.
So your family, as you said, has been in the financial planning business for many years. So why can't a financial planner do all this stuff? Why do I need a lawyer to do this?
A financial planner can do some of this stuff, but financial planners can't give legal advice. So they can't tell you the legal repercussions of certain decisions. And they might not know, like my dad, for example, he's my dad, so I don't know if it's like the least biased example, but he calls me, he's been doing this forever, like since I was in middle school, and he calls me still and asks me questions about, some of the stuff. I want to do this for this client. What are the legalities behind it, and that kind of thing. And other, financial advisors really do consult with attorneys a lot. But when it comes to the probate process, as an attorney, once you die, unless you've done probate avoidance planning, which is one of the parts of estate planning that is available to some people, if you've not done that, your estate's going to end up in probate. So the people that go to probate to fight for your assets to make sure that everything happens the way you wanted it to happen are lawyers. So in turn, we see all the things that happen when it doesn't get done right. So that's what I can say. Like, for example, the felony conviction, like I can make sure that all of the people that walk into my office know that no one who has had a felony conviction can be your personal representative in Florida. And I've seen what happens if you don't listen. So I can give you those examples where I think a lot of times financial advisors, it ends when you make the investment.
So it's a lyrics from that old song that lawyers take care of details.
Yeah.
That's we clean up messes.
Right.
So let me ask you this: how how does, when you're interviewing a lawyer, what questions do you think they need to ask to make sure that they're going to have that trusting relationship and that the attorney really, at the end of the day, has their best interests at heart?
Sure. One of the things I think is it's not an end point. It's not the only thing to know, but does the attorney really focus on estate planning? Because a lot of attorneys are what we call doorstep attorneys, and some of them can be great at what they do, but they don't really focus on anything. So you want to make sure, because the law in estate planning and the law surrounding life insurance and disability really changes. It's fluid. So you want someone that's really focused on making sure they understand what the current status of the law is and what protections are currently available to their clients. And then you also want to ask your attorney about succession planning, because this is a long-term relationship. So if your attorney's like me, where they own their own business and they're the only one that works here, what's going to happen if I'm not here? Do I have a plan in place, is what my client should be asking. They don't ask, but they should. And do I have a plan in place? So what's going to happen to your will in my safe and something happens to me? Or what's going to happen if you need it to be revised and I'm sick or I'm not here anymore? Those kind of questions I think that are really important, and that can tell you a lot about who you're working with and what kind of person they are, and how detail oriented they are, and that can answer a lot of your other questions.
Would you anticipate that attorney would also be contacting them on a regular basis, not to be a pest, but to just see if circumstances had changed and whether the estate planning needed to be changed?
Yeah, you should hear from your estate planning attorney at least every 18 months, I would say, depending on your age bracket and your circumstances, right? So if you are a 19-year-old who gets his will done when he's moving out of his parents' house and you're going to college, maybe you don't hear from that person every 18 months, but there should be a pretty regular schedule of contact between the attorney's office and you, whether it's coming from you or from them. So if I don't hear from a client for 18 months, I mean, I send cards once or twice a year just to check in, but I'll call, or my assistant will call and just say, especially during times like now, like during COVID, we're calling all of our clients to make sure everybody's okay and has a place to live and food.
Right. So how can people reach out to you if they're in the Tampa Bay area and talk with you about what's right for them in terms of estate planning and a will?
I'm in St. Petersburg on Central Avenue, and I have a website. It's www.hancocklawfl, like Florida.com. And you can also call me at 727-222-0529 or email at autumn@hancocklawflorida.com.
So one of the things we haven't talked about, just in closing, is you also teach this area of law, don't you?
I do. I teach at St. Pete College, and I'm on like a rotation of classes. So this semester I'm teaching business law, but it's different subjects that I taught in this area as well.
Right. So you bring your expertise not only as a lawyer, but you teach paralegal students about this particular area. And I think you serve on some other committees. Is that correct?
I do. I'm the law practice management chair for the St. Petersburg Bar Association. I'm also, I write for the Florida Association of Women Lawyers Journal. I'm on that committee. And I'm on several other little sections of different bar organizations in the area. And I'm the liaison for Florida for the Wills for Heroes program.
Great. Well, I love the fact that you not only are involved in the first responder community, but that you teach and you're actively involved in a number of legal groups. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being with us today. So that's a wrap. If you like this podcast, please consider liking our page, leaving a review, or sharing it with your friends and family. Remember, our podcast comes out weekly, so tune in next week for another great episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Thank you.